Today's conversation is on always being in love with God as there is only God. Always being in love with God as there is only God. Very precise. While sitting still, for example, in a meditation, while body is still specifically, experience God beyond theories in mind, limited theories in mind of God, while we can experience God while being still in a meditation practice, sitting and physically being still, as articulated in Psalm 46:10, "Be still and know that I am God." It is also realized, let's say, that the individual, by day-to-day life experience, as they remain in their flow, where body appears to flow, is also still experiencing God. As it says, I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. So the way I relate to this is I am still now as I appear to flow. Or we could say, as body appears to flow, I am still now. Thus, you can experience God anywhere, whether it would be in a meditation practice while you are sitting still. You can also experience God in what the person in mind labels as challenge. As articulated in the book Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. There is a sweet spot where challenge meets skill, where divine presence, we can say, is manifested into form. This is experienced, we could say, not by trying to run away from the challenge, being afraid of the challenge, but rather relaxing into the challenge, being still and experiencing flow with the seeming challenge. And why do I say seeming challenge? Who labels it as a challenge? No shame, no condemnation. Who labels it as a challenge? It is only the person in mind that labels it as a challenge. Through relaxing into the flow by not identifying with the thoughts that belong to what the Bible refers to as the old man, who thinks in terms of separation from God, which is an interesting point. If I say the word God, and I did this study, over the years I've been doing consulting and coaching and entrepreneurship and relationships, and there are times, let's say, I use the word God, and so I created a study of this. Sometimes I may say the word God to a person, and then they start thinking in terms of separation. Then I say God to another person, and then they think in terms of fulfillment. What is also interesting is if I use the word desire with the first group, they think in terms of suffering. In other words, they think that desire means suffering. And then when I use the word desire with the other group, they think in terms of fulfillment. In other words, to them, desire means fulfillment. What I have found is the group that has, let's say, a harmonious relationship with God, one of no separation, beyond the limiting concepts or theories of God, and also have a harmonious relationship with the word desire, experience exactly what I'm talking about here effortlessly. They acknowledge God beyond theory, while being still in meditation. They are in love with God beyond theory while in meditation, in love with God, experiencing love with God. And in their day-to-day experiences, while in flow, as they are still experiencing love with God, yet body appears to flow, they don't shame and condemn. They rather experience fulfilled desire. The desire means fulfillment, as I say. In, on, and as, we could say, the outer appearances of God as symbols of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Thus, we could say their concept of God is beyond limitation. It is experienced into form as, we could say, symbols of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And why do I say this? Well, for many reasons we've been discussing over the years. One, we could say, is that during a meditation, what I experience is being devoid of separation. Being devoid of separation. Thus, everything that I desire, which we could say are the desires of the heart, the symbols of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, are experienced during the meditation. I am fulfilled thus. This is what I mean by desire points to fulfillment. This is why I refer to I am being love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Because if there is no separation, which there is no separation in fundamental reality, then I must be also complete, whole, have everything, and thus need nothing. This is what I mean by being in love with God, always being in love with God. So, practically speaking, for me, this is experienced as loving friendships, loving business, loving relationships, loving friendships, in love with God during these experiences, inner and outer as one. And also, what I find is, we could say, hobbies, activities, and even particular circumstances which could be labeled as challenging. Naturally, what happens is we relax into the flow in those experiences, being in love with God. I am still, yet I appear to flow, as body appears to flow, yet I am still in love with God. So life is experienced as a celebration of God. Life is experienced as, we could say, wonderful business, harmonious relationships, friendships, as a celebration of God. Just as to me, a meditation is a celebration of God, the experiences of life are a celebration of God. I don't consider one way better than another. I experience the flow day to day with whatever it is that I'm doing, more and more so. And I am still, as I am in love with God with these experiences. And I trust that you have noticed this as well. You are experiencing this more specifically as well. Ever since I made flow a priority in 2017, the experience has been more profound, where now I can define it as being in love with God, always in love with God, as there is only God, always in love with God, as there is only God. For example, we recently did the event in New York over the weekend. Danielle Lynn and I did the event, and that is what I experienced at the event. That is what we experienced at the event as a group. Isn't that interesting? Because I remember back in 2010, while I was building my IT business, I would experience anxiety building up, leading up to these workshops that I used to teach on the weekend. They were speed reading workshops, which we can say directly, what does that got to do with building an IT business? Yet I chose to do them on the weekends as a way to experience God, we could say, while speaking publicly, and also remove the illusions of separation in mind in relationships, which actually are not belonging to me. As there is no separation, illusions of separation belong to what the Bible refers to as the old man, and you are not the old man. You really think for yourself, and by that I mean very specifically. If you think from the premise of fulfillment. I am fulfilled. I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. You are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Thus, we are fulfilled. We are in love with God, experiencing God, always in love with God, as there is only God. Now, this profound experience over the years increases more so, let's say, with increasing frequency on a continuous basis as far as the senses perceive. So I used to teach these speed reading workshops back in the days. And as I accepted myself more so as unconditional love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, for no reason at all, leading up to the workshops, by acknowledging, as I say, autosuggestions are acknowledgement of the facts. Acknowledgement of the facts of being, we could say, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. As if there is no separation fundamentally, and there is no separation fundamentally, you realize this by being still, then can I be as I am, devoid of separation? And it's manifested as flow. So as these illusions of separation dissolve in mind, what would be experienced as anxiety building up before I would teach these workshops on Saturday and Sunday got, we could say, transmuted. It got transmuted into excitement, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. I experienced love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment on the way to teaching the workshops, and then I experienced love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment within the workshops and after the workshops. So when we did the event this weekend, leading up to it, I experienced love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment on the way there, leading up to it. In everything we did, we can say coordinating for the event, while in the event, always in love with God, as there is only God. Only God was experienced as love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment during the event. And after the event, some of us hung out, and we hung out till 3 o'clock in the morning. At a particular point, we went and hung out with the Napoleon Hill Institute, and that was a lot of fun. So I am still in love with God. Practical example, I am still in love with God. All throughout, always in love with God, as there is only God. Experiencing God, we could say celebrating God with everyone that was at the event. And now I'm celebrating God with you, sharing this with you. Celebrating God prior to the event, during the event, and after the event. This is what I mean by, if a person thinks that the only way to experience God is by being still. My body is still. And there's no movement or no thoughts or no emotions. Can you experience God as body appears to flow, as emotions appear to flow, as environments appear to flow? People, environment, circumstance, information appears to flow. Thoughts appear to flow. Certainly you can. So what I did, practically speaking, and what you can do as well over the years, as I made flow a priority in 2017. Prior to that, I was, you could say, sometimes making it a priority, sometimes not. And then when I was in Playa del Carmen, Mexico in 2017, I took an inventory. I said, when was I the happiest, most loving, most peaceful, most blissful, most fulfilled, and practically experiencing God with relationships, with the various initiatives? And the results, magnificent results, we could say. Rapid business growth, wonderful relationship experiences. Even while I was by myself, let's say, physically walking by myself, experiencing love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment for no reason at all. It was while I was in flow. While I was in flow. So I said, I did a very simple inventory. And I said, after that, it seems to be that this is where I experience my true nature, while in flow. What if I just make flow a priority? What if I stop unnecessary complications of needing to do this and that and just make flow a priority? And that's what I did. And what happened? Well, what happened was I got to a point of now articulating it this way. And the results, we could say, practical results, increased more so. In other words, harmonious relationships, harmonious friendships, harmonious life experiences, even in moments which I once thought of, which is not me really thinking. I was just identified with the old man. So that's old man thinking. Even though the old man thought that, okay, in this particular circumstance of challenge, you can't experience flow. I found that to not be the case. I found that I could be still in the moment, relax into the flow by simply allowing the thoughts to be, not identifying with them in mind if they suggest illusions of separation, of not being love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment in relation to the appearances, in relation to the experiences, in relation to the people, environment, circumstance, information. And the thoughts appear to disappear, we could say. Thoughts appear to disappear, and as a result, the emotions regulated, body continues to flow, mind became purified, more so as we say, mind purification. And now I can articulate it this way, always in love with God, as there is only God. This kind of statement might not have made sense to me before, logical sense. It sounds quite nice in theory, yet what we're talking about here is living God beyond theory, celebrating God beyond theory, experientially, physically, emotionally, mentally, integrated with the spiritual truth that I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Thus, God is the source of my desire and fulfillment of my desire. Who else gives you the desire for love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment? I have found that God only gives and fulfills desires. I simply accept the desire as fulfilled. A desire arises. Thank you. I remain in my flow. Let's say an individual is having a conversation with someone. And during the conversation, the other person uses a particular word or displays a particular body language. And as a result of witnessing that word or hearing that word or witnessing the body language, the old man is triggered in mind. the old man belief, the belief that belongs to the old man, is triggered in mind. The individual has a choice if they would like to identify with that thought or not. As a matter of fact, you can see the imaginal activity of the old man relating to the appearance, the experience, the word, the body language appearing in mind, and you have an ability to choose to identify with it or not. Now, if the individual does not choose to identify with the old man thinking, which again is not you really thinking, as you are not the old man, otherwise referred to as the former self. You're not the former self, you are the real self. What happens is that belief is dissolved, and body continues to appear to flow. Because practically speaking, you acknowledge God is beyond that limitation. God is beyond limitation or theoretical limitations of God, we could say, in that moment. And that's what I did again, and again. And as I continued to do that, what I noticed is not just in public speaking and in social situations, in conversations, the conversations flow. And they always flow to be in harmony, which again proves the point that reality is in harmony with you. The play of God appears to be in harmony with you. As the individual releases identification to old man thinking, the body flows, emotions regulate, clear thinking. If you think, you think from the premise of fulfillment, your true nature. To suggest that you are not fulfilled is illusory. You are fulfilled. You realize this in a meditation. By being still and acknowledging God beyond theory, experiencing God beyond theory in meditation, by physically being still. And I recommend the Vipassana meditation. I'll link in the description to it. You realize that you are fulfilled for no reason at all. Now, just as you are fulfilled for no reason at all during meditation, you acknowledge your fulfillment, we could say. You experience your fulfillment during meditation for no reason at all. You can experience your fulfillment in day-to-day life by not identifying with the illusory thoughts that seem to suggest that you are not fulfilled. You are not those thoughts of lack of fulfillment. Those thoughts belong to, again, the old man or the former self, who thinks in terms of separation, who thinks in terms of lack of fulfillment, who considers desire to mean suffering, when in actuality, desire points to fulfillment. That is a result of a dogmatic belief, and that belief is unreal and can appear to disappear, we can say, as these thoughts arise in mind, which spawn from these beliefs. And there is a space between you and the thought. You can choose to identify with it or not. So you choose not to identify with that thought. The thoughts appear to disappear. I trust you notice this. The thoughts appear to disappear. And so do those beliefs. The mind is purified. The subconscious mind is purified from thoughts of limitation. And then what is experienced is a harmonious relationship with God, practically speaking, as life experiences that are celebrations of God, always in love with God as there is only God. Now, we may be presented with these kinds of opportunities wherever we appear, in conversations with people. That's why, personally, I don't run away from what could appear as challenging situations. Those challenging situations, let's say, are opportunities for me to be as I am. See, if I genuinely desire to have a conversation with someone, if I genuinely desire to do what I love to do, only God gives and fulfills desires. I have a choice to identify with old man thinking that appears in mine in relation to taking that step. And if I identify with it, I can experience suffering. And then I might think that desire means suffering, which is, again, not me really thinking. That's old man thinking, to suggest that desire means suffering. Desire means fulfillment. As that thought, whatever that illusory thought is in relation to taking that step and engaging in doing the thing that you really love to do, is released, not identified with, you naturally do the thing that you love to do, and you celebrate God with the experience, whatever it may be. I trust you notice this. Now, these opportunities may be presented. And what I did over the years, since I made flow a priority, is take these opportunities. And how do I practically take these opportunities? If, let's say, illusory thinking arises in mind, if fear arises in mind, I don't label the emotions as problematic. I don't identify with that illusory thought. And what happens is body continues to flow, and it is experienced as a celebration of God. As I say, always in love with God, as there is only God. Now, for entrepreneurs, as I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, we do this at any point on the journey. I have on my screen here the Robert Dilts logical level. So on the top, there's I, you, who has a vision that was received via desire by God, and you imagine what that desire implies. The vision is given to you by God as well, because the vision is a symbol of your fulfillment, and you genuinely desire to experience your fulfillment. You know that you are fulfilled, and you also desire to experience your fulfillment. One way is not better than another. I know that I am fulfilled, yet I genuinely desire to experience fulfillment as well. Physical, emotional, mental integration with the spiritual truth as inner and outer as one. So as I accept myself as fulfilled by imagining myself to be the person that I desire to be, everything else changes. The identity changes, the values and beliefs may change, the identity may change to some degree. All that stuff happens naturally by simply imagining myself to be the person that I desire to be. So naturally, the personal identity shifts. The values and beliefs shift. The capabilities, which are the skills, shift. The behaviors shift. The environments shift. That all happens naturally. That all happens. It's done for us. As we celebrate God, as body appears to flow, all this stuff happens naturally. So what I do with entrepreneurs is we say, okay, you have a vision. Well, you're on the journey to actualizing the vision. I imagine you already experiencing that which you desire. Do you see yourself that way? They say yes. Now, let's say on the journey, if they experience any kind of resistance to reality being in harmony with them, so as reality, the physical appearances appear to rearrange to be in harmony, to manifest the vision, as all of this appears to rearrange to manifest the vision some way, somehow. I don't concern myself with how, as it says in the Bible. My ways are past finding out. What happens is the illusion of control from the old man may appear in mind as a thought of, let's say, suggesting force, needing to control, illusory thinking, or illusions of separation, lack of fulfillment, or desires may arise on the journey to actualizing the vision in relation to whatever. Simply accept the desires as fulfilled. Don't identify with the illusory thoughts. Then those illusory beliefs, which are in the subconscious mind, are dissolved. And what the individual experiences is always in love with God, celebration of God, let's say, as there's only God, practically speaking, in, on, and as the journey to actualizing the vision. So in other words, I say it this way. I say flow-based journey to actualizing the vision. And if it is not experienced that way on the journey to actualizing the vision, no shame, no condemnation, take the opportunities to put off the former conversation. Again, 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 and again. That's it. That's it. And what happens is you remain in your flow. Mind is purified. And when you actualize that vision into form, then you have been freed, we could say, from identification to those illusory beliefs in mind as a result of taking the opportunities. as a result of always being in love with God, practically speaking. I am still now as body appears to flow, as I am beyond identification to these appearances. I have released identification to these appearances, and the identification to the appearances, whatever it may be, people, environment, circumstance, information, capabilities, behaviors appearing to transform, the identification of limitations, let's say, identification of limitations are a result of identification to particular beliefs in mind that manifest as identification, not to shame and condemn, to present opportunities to release those identifications. And as you do, you remain in your flow, always in love with God, as in the end, there's only God. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's conclude this with an auto-suggestion to further encourage. You could say, I always appear to be in love with God, experiencing my true nature as love, with people, environment, circumstance, information, practically manifesting the fact that I am fulfilled now, witnessing God more so with increasing frequency on a continuous basis, as harmonious life experiences, as harmonious love experiences, as harmonious life appearances, as harmonious love appearances, as in the end, as was in the beginning, there is only God.